It is no secret that the technology sector is still dominated by men. Women make up only about 17% of the workforce in the information technology and telecommunications industry, and even fewer women reach management positions. The women in tech community is working hard on this problem to bring about a change. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with Melanie Yencken, a UX director for Google and a speaker at the Women in Technology Online Festival of 2021. We are glad to have you here, Ms. Yencken.
Great. I'm super glad to be here and to be part of this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Ms. Yencken, what made you interested into technology and UX in the first place?
Yeah, so when I was at high school, I was actually planning to do veterinary science, and I had all of my subjects as sciences, and I went and did a placement, and I literally passed out in the operating room when they were operating on a cat because I loved animals too much. So I changed all my sciences to arts, to the displeasure of my parents, who were a traditional lawyer and doctor. And then I went and studied visual communication at Monash University in Melbourne and got my bachelor's degree. And when I finished, I was a branding designer, and I would do branding and print work. And I did enjoy that. But the part that I really enjoyed was when I got to express the brand digitally on their website and on the kind of the digital collateral. And so I decided to just specialize purely in digital design. And that was such a long time ago now. It was quite a broad and fun area to specialize in. We were doing website design, application design, Flash app design, touchscreen design. And I just loved it because you could quantify your decisions and you could justify what you were doing by looking at analytics and by testing it with users. Whereas I found branding design very subjective and based on an individual's opinion. So that's how I kind of moved into design and digital design, and why I ended up specializing in user experience, because I loved kind of the mix of user research, analytics, and design, and bringing all those together to build a digital product.
Looking back onto your career, now that you have been in different leadership positions over the last years, what was the toughest challenge you had to overcome as a woman in tech?
This was such a tough question. And I actually asked my husband, who I'm very close to, what his opinion was, because he's been with me for quite a lot of my career. And he was kind of saying, well, which challenge are you going to choose? There's been so many for you. And I was just kind of stuck a little bit by that. Like, wow, I don't realize it, but my career is literally just a series of challenges that I've had to face. And I think that a lot of them come from the fact that I am a woman. I've experienced probably 3 times where I've had a senior member of the organization that I've worked in bully me, belittle me, like the kinds of things I've had said to me during my career, like I'm too ambitious, I'm too promotion driven, I'm too assertive. And then on the other hand, I've had people tell me I'm not confident enough, I don't speak loudly enough. And then I've had, expectations put on me that I should be the one who makes a group come together. And, women are traditionally seen as their role is to build the community, not to lead the strategic work. So, I'm supposed to be taking the notes in the meetings and setting the agenda, being responsible for just organizing the birthdays and those kinds of activities. So all through my career, almost, I'd say, like until I joined Google, most of the time I would sit in the room, I'd be the only woman, and I would be a lot younger than a lot of other people there. And I've had to continually motivate myself to push through that. And luckily I grew up with 5 brothers. So I have always been surrounded by men, and that was kind of in my upbringing that was just a normal expectation for me. And my school that I went to, St. Leonard's College in Melbourne in Australia, they had a great system of equality in terms of how boys and girls were treated. And so it felt totally fine for women to be speaking up in the classroom environment. And so I think with that foundation for me, I kind of have had enough resilience and confidence to just continually pick myself back up and continually tell people, like, that's an inappropriate way to speak to me. You're speaking to me from a place of unconscious bias. That is not something you would be saying to a man in this case. So I think like the toughest moment that happened for me was when it was someone who was like my manager and was someone I respected, and to have them tell me that I needed to go and watch an Oprah Winfrey podcast because I needed to go build my self-esteem, and that I was good, but I would never be amazing. And I mean, those kinds of conversations are just so hard to hear. And they're so influential to you. And I'm just so sure that those kinds of comments are just never said to men. And, that I ended up leaving that role. And I've left a few companies because I haven't felt like there was any capacity for me to change the culture. And I just recognized there was just far too many things stacked against me as, a young woman who was trying to be successful. And that's just, like, unfortunately, the advice I've had to give to a few people is, when you aren't being supported and you don't see a culture within the organization in general, or another like part of the organization that you could move to where you feel like you would be successful, sometimes the best option is to look for another company and look for another place. And I've had to do that a few times in my career, which is unfortunate. And I just don't think that's something that happens to men in terms of they, feeling like they get bullied out of an organization because of their gender. So, yes, I mean, it's quite a depressing answer to that question, but I have had, a lot of positive experiences, and I'm happy to see a lot more women in the room in my current organization. And, it's kind of why I've made this my mission alongside my traditional career, is to focus on making it easier for women to succeed in tech.
As you mentioned, your mission is to help women to maybe one day have a better chance to find a place in a company. You also talk at the Women in Technology Online Festival. Your talk is about creating an inclusive UX team culture. Can you maybe explain what role diverse teams play in the user experience design process and how you aim to achieve this inclusiveness?
Yes. So diverse teams equal better products and more revenue for the business. Like, that is the bottom line and this is a lot of research has gone in to show this. So when you have a diverse team, you have a broader representation of people who have different perspectives and will contribute different ideas and different opinions. And what that means is if you have psychological safety in the team so that those people feel like they are actually able to speak, that's important. You can't just have diverse representation. You have to also have an environment where they feel that they are included and can contribute equally. Then you have debate and you have, rigorous analysis of ideas and assumptions, and you figure out what's not going to work and what's going to work much faster. Because when you tend to have a lot of people who think the same in the room together, then you get a lot of, communal thinking, you don't get a lot of challenge, and then it takes you a long time to actually build something and get it out into the customer's hands, and then to find out that it's a failure and it doesn't make any sense to kind of go down that direction, which happens a lot in technology. So you have to assume that most of your ideas are going to be bad. So you want to create a process of, a team and an environment which will be able to vet those ideas pretty quickly. And so what I try to do in my teams is make an environment where a diverse group of people can actually succeed, where they are able to feel like they have psychological safety and can say what they think. And I'm speaking a lot about this in the talk, which I'll be doing for the Women in Tech conference. So please go and have a look. But that talk is specifically about how to create inclusive team culture, where I talk about the importance of building team trust and respect so that you have empathy and psychological safety between the team members. And then what you should do as a leader to actually cultivate diverse perspective and how to make sure everyone can contribute to the conversation. And then finally, I talk about, as the manager, what you should be doing to provide equal opportunities to everyone in your team, and do, well thought out career development for individuals, so that diverse people in your team actually get a chance to rise up in the organization. I think that's a summary of the question answer.
Besides your job at Google and besides your teamwork there, you are also a founder of the London Tech Ladies, which is a group for women in technology that meets monthly to discuss and learn together. How can such gatherings help to empower women and finally lead to more women in management positions?
So we started London Tech Ladies about 6 years ago when I read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In book. And the part of the book which really struck me was at the end where she said, bringing women together in what she called circles would create an environment of kind of trust and shared growth, and you would, be able to help each other succeed in your careers. And so we decided, oh, great, let's do that, because we didn't really feel like we had a safe space to discuss what we felt were issues that we were experiencing purely because we were women in the workplace. And so we formed this circle. It was like 6 women, and we were like, oh, we advertised it. We thought, let's see if anyone else wants to join. And we made our focus specifically on getting the soft skills that we felt like we weren't given maybe as children, and we were facing in the workplace difficulty. Things like, how do we negotiate? How do we have more confidence in the workplace? And whereas we saw our male counterparts just naturally doing those things. And so we had so many women apply. We realized that there was so much unmet need for women to be able to come together and build up these soft skills and to discuss difficult topics where we felt like, we might be experiencing some of the challenges I spoke about earlier in my question. So we created this safe space, and part of the sessions that we would have every month would have someone who was an expert in a particular soft skill area, like imposter syndrome, or how to have strong presentation skills, or how to negotiate your pay and ask for a promotion, how to have more, empathy and emotional intelligence, how to better manage work-life balance, especially if you're balancing, responsibilities of managing the family and your work. And then we would have a good session of networking at the end of the event. And we basically saw, a lot of women coming to join, and that they were feeling like they had never had a place to be able to discuss these topics before, and that this was a safe space where they could, say what they were experiencing, and get some confidence to kind of improve in those life skills, and have a safe space to practice those. Because the reality is, at work, you don't get training on how to effectively negotiate, or how to effectively mentor or ask for a mentor, or how to just build up your network. All of these things are essential for you to progress in your career, and you don't actually get that training necessarily.
Now we have just one last question for you. Within the London Tech Ladies, you also offer workshops and talks to encourage soft skill development, as you already mentioned. Do you have a tip for viewers, especially for female students in the tech sector, on how soft skills can help them grow in their own careers?
Yes, definitely. So all of the soft skills I just listed before, imposter syndrome, presentation skills, at the cornerstone of all of that is confidence. And that the ability to just have more confidence to kind of try these things or ask for more. And it's just unfortunate that as men and women are growing up, we tell men and boys when they're younger, just keep going, just keep asking, just get up, dust it off, just you put on a brave face. And we don't have that dialogue with women. So when they come into the workplace, they don't naturally have that resilience that men do. And so what I tend to see the most is women having a very negative inner voice, where they're talking to themselves in such a derogative manner, in a way that they would never speak to their friends or family, or anyone in general. And it's so common. I do it myself. This continual inner critique, and you are your own toughest critique. And that voice, if you can start to analyze it and abstract it from reality, to kind of say oh, I hear that. That is just my that's just a voice. That's just an opinion. That's not truth. Like that is not, I am not what that voice is saying, and try to actually flip it and say, okay, well, if I've got this inner dialogue saying to myself, like, you're going to fail in that meeting. Like, here are all the catastrophizing ways that you can fail. Think about how you would talk about that that particular situation with a friend. Like, what would you say to them? You would say, don't worry, you've done so many of those meetings before. You are going to be amazing. You are going to smash it. Like, just think about the last time you did that and how great you did it. And just, take that before you go into that meeting. Like, if you spoke to yourself that way, it's so powerful. So it's just this one thing. If you can try to keep this checking in on what your inner dialogue is saying, and then try to flip it in a way that you might talk to your friend, and just, force yourself to do that for a little while, you'll be astounded by how much that can improve your confidence in a certain situation, because you'll be your biggest supporter instead of your biggest critique.
Thank you, Ms. Yencken, for sharing your insights with us, and thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.